Yeah. It's been really interesting seeing the argument develop over the years, especially in that vein. I kind of want to bring in the idea of innocence. I kind of want to frame it as well. So I spoke to Graham Oppy recently on the show. I think it's just gone live as we're speaking. But for those who haven't seen it, basically Oppy kind of defines innocence as people who've never considered the God question, and therefore they are non-believers. So I kind of want to bring that to the fore to speak about the idea of kind of reflective non-believers versus unreflective non-believers. And I guess
Yeah.
the question really is around whether or not it matters if non-belief is negative or neutral for the hiddenness argument to stand. So the sort of example that I have is you could say that there is a non-believer who's an ex-believer, who is racked with doubt about kind of God. When they look for God, they just couldn't find him and therefore don't believe, versus someone like an innocent, as Oppy would define it, who've never even looked or thought about the God question. Like, does it have to be one of those two, or can both of those two fit within this argument for it to stand?
So both of those two categories can certainly um, count as non-resistant non-belief, right? So as you mentioned, the what was the word you used? Reflective versus non-reflective non-belief, right? So Schellenberg is interested in non-belief, just simpliciter, right? And that's going to include reflective. It's going to include non-reflective. So on the reflective side, you're going to have people who've thought about it and have come to a conclusion based on the evidence available to them, but that conclusion is not belief in God, right? So you can have your reflective atheists, right? Someone who has, you know, whether or not they used to believe, right? Whatever the case may be about their history, currently they believe that God does not exist. They actually hold that belief, and they do that for maybe the problem of evil or something to that effect, right? Um, and then you can have agnostics. So agnostics are people who have considered the question, but they think that the evidence is just the evidence and other like pre-theoretic concerns are it's like an even wash, to where it's like they don't feel um, safe kind of going in either direction, right? They're going to say, well, I just don't know. I just don't have enough evidence. I don't have what I need to make a conclusion on this. So they're going to essentially suspend judgment. Or they just think that it's like exactly 50-50. And so they're not going to hold one way or the other. So those are like reflective um, non-believers. Now, on the other side, you can have unreflective non-belief, right? And this can include innocence, such as you mentioned, Graham Oppy's term there, where people like say isolated tribes in the Amazon or something, or like early, very early humans. So like prior to like the development of monotheism, right? So early humans, isolated tribes. These are people who like may have religious concepts, but they just don't have the religious concept of an all-powerful, all-knowing, and all good God. They just don't have that. They have other supernatural concepts, and so they lack belief in God. But it's not because they've ever even confronted it or even considered the idea. So they've not really come to a conclusion based on an assessment of the concept, like holding it up to the evidence to see how it fares. So that's a form of unreflective non-belief. Unreflective, just in the sense, again, that they just didn't really reflect on the concept because they've not had it yet. Another form of unreflective non-belief, though, equally problematic, is the unreflective non-belief of someone who is raised in a thoroughly um, non-theistic culture, where they might be aware of the concept, so maybe they've like heard it, right? They just everything about their culture, all their epistemic authorities within in their life have like cemented in them the idea that theism is just not like a serious concept. It's not a serious intellectual possibility, and so they've just never reflected on it. They see it in the background. Oh, I know that there are theists. They exist over there, so they're aware of the concept, but they've never really dealt with it, right? So that's another form of unreflective non-belief. So it's a very big tent. It includes a lot of people, and so it does not matter whether they are innocents or not. As so long as they don't have belief in God, that is fair game as evidence for the hiddenness argument.
If you enjoyed this clip, then head on over to Locals to access the full conversation right now. Supporters can access the video version, and everyone can access the audio-only version of the conversation. I'll see you over there.